San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I'm really curious how you feel about this one, because I actually think I don't know if I feel worse about the Niners than I did on Saturday, but the more I've thought about it, the more I'm concerned about, or the more, let me say this. I think this is,
yes.
This
okay,
is
I think
this is a bigger off season than maybe it's being discussed as, because I think, and look, I feel this way when they lost the game on Saturday. I was like, okay, you can leave this season feeling fine about that. You got destroyed by the Seahawks. The Seahawks are the best team in the league, but you were banged up. You just ran out of rope, I think was what I said. You ran out. You drove the car all the way to E, this very banged up team. My problem is, though, number one, you're losing Robert Saleh. That's a big deal. And you're gonna get Nick Bosa and Fred Warner back healthy, theoretically, but like that's great. That's gonna help the defense. But you are losing the guy that just made chicken salad out of you know what, right? Like that's a problem. And then offensively, other than Brock Purdy, like who are the guys we're counting on this team next year?
Right.
I love Ricky Pearsall. I love Ricky Pearsall. I'm a huge Ricky Pearsall fan, but obviously I would say can't really count on him based on the way this season went last year. You're hoping like, okay, he plays 17 games next season and he breaks out and he's awesome. I think that's totally possible. Just tough to set your watch to it after what happened this year. Juwan Jennings, I would guess, is moving on in free agency. George Kittle tore his Achilles like a week ago, guys, and he's 33 years old in October.
Yes.
That's like, is he going to be available in September? Probably not. Is he going to be George Kittle at any point next year? Probably not. No. And Christian McCaffrey had 480 opportunities this year. That's targets plus receptions. That is the fourth most for a running back since the year 2000. It's tied with Arian Foster for the fourth most for among a running back, and that's regular season and playoffs combined. Yeah. And don't look at what happens to the guys the year after they have those like 400.
I was hoping you had that stat.
I don't have I have the players. I haven't like looked deep into this in terms of like, okay, this is how much their efficiency drops off or whatever. But just I can rifle off some of the names here real quick. Number one is DeMarco Murray, 506 for the 214 the 2014 Cowboys.
Died after that.
Nope. Saquon Barkley last year for the Eagles Super Bowl run. Obviously, I don't think he was the main culprit of what was wrong with the Eagles run game, but I don't think it totally helped.
He dropped off.
Eddie George in 2000 had 489. Arian
Famous
Foster
one.
for the 2012 Texans had 480, just like Christian McCaffrey did. He dropped off. He had a bunch of injuries the next year. Larry Johnson, 2006, Kansas City Chiefs, 475. Didn't go well for him the next year. Edgerrin James, year 2000, 474 for the Colts. I believe he tore his ACL the season after that. Yeah, so it's just like, it's a lot of guys that it didn't go well the next season once you get up to those like 470 opportunities, and obviously he does a lot of stuff in the pass game, which I think he can continue to do. But even McCaffrey's rushing efficiency stuff dropped off next year. I think it would be flat out, and I'm not saying like McCaffrey's done or he's going to be done next year or anything like that, but I think it would be flat out irresponsible to do what they've done with him whenever he's been healthy next season, which is just talk about press the easy button. Just, I get it. He makes your offense and your play sheet come alive if you're Kyle Shanahan. Let's let him do that as a receiver and get somebody else in here to do that grinder rushing stuff. Trent Williams is 38 years old next season. Probably time to start thinking about the future there. And again, they just have nothing at wide receiver beyond Ricky Pearsall, who's an awesome, talented player, but is coming off of an injury plagued season. So it's just, there's a lot more to do than you would think for the San Francisco 49ers.
I kind of, when I got my notes together, 49ers postmortem, I was like, okay, we kind of carried over what we talked about Sunday. All right, figure out the receiver position. I was like, all right, they're actually, there's a lot more question marks there than maybe I even kind of like assumed on Sunday. I was like, Juwan Jennings, who weighs a big staple of this offense now. All right, he's going to get money. Ricky Pearsall, like you said, can't really trust him. just injury-wise, just how he has shown. Not the biggest guy either. That's another thing, too. He's 190-ish, but, I know it's splitting hairs. I know I'm the guy that's all about size, but that's a thing.
No, I get it. Yeah.
I'm always going to bring it up.
But also just real quick on Pearsall, too. I think the way they used him this year was a little bizarre, too, because I kind of imagined him as, all right, we're going to spread it out a little more, and he's going to be like a slot flanker type for them. But he was almost always outside on the line of scrimmage, I think, because that's like, he was an X and kind of like their vertical guy, which is why even when he was healthy, sometimes he would just disappear from games because he's running like the Nico Collins route tree in this offense, which is not quite the role I figured he would be. And obviously you think Brandon Ayuk was going to come back and be that, and Brandon Ayuk ain't going to be on the 2026 San Francisco 49ers.
No, didn't they say they haven't even heard from him? It's like haven't heard from him for a couple months. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to be on this roster next year. No, it's we kind of got to the same wavelength on this. I'm looking up Christian McCaffrey's speed numbers because I was curious about this too. But yeah, I wrote the same thing. Took over 400 touches this year, and they were hard touches. The O-line was this was the worst or most inconsistent. I hate saying worst because it did rally, but it was the most inconsistent run game that Shanahan has had, at least in San Fran. Maybe the first year, I think, in 2017 when they got there, before they kind of pieced everything together. And so McCaffrey, credit to him for staying healthy. And I know this guy works so hard and is one of the hardest training guys, is always on top of stuff. Listen to him talking about his dad, because his dad was the same way.
He called it the hardest year of my life. He said it was one of the hardest years of my life because of how much he had to rehab and like work really hard to get to play a full season this year.
God, it's hard. And he's turning 30. And I know it's like, oh, he's just 30 years old. 30 at running back is a scary cliff to come up to. You were talking about cliff with this team. Yeah. That's a sorry to keep cliff.
Cutting you off too, but like part of the quote that he said was like, it was hard on my wife this past year, because of how much he was just away from the facility and like training and all this stuff, or away from family and like training and all that. And I think they had a kid this year too. That's a guy that's like not just thinking about, oh man, do I want to be doing this again next year? I don't know. That's just those like were turning a little like gears in my head hearing that. Yeah, right.
I everything you hit on is what I was going to hit on. I said they need to be healthy, and again, that's like, oh yeah, we can sometimes just assume, oh, they're going to have health luck. Well, one, this team never has health luck because of just who the guys they go after. That like they have a history of injuries. Kittle's another year older, coming off an Achilles, and a guy that thrives on explosion. So Achilles are Achilles, man. Like that is by default a 10% stat devaluer, like speed, explosiveness. Yeah, these guys are freaks. Kittle's going to train his butt off. Don't get me wrong. I get all that, but physics are physics. Father time is father time. Like this is just math, I guess, however you want to put it. Like this is just inevitable, especially within Achilles, especially at that age. Trent Williams is older. I think everybody, including myself, has mocked a left tackle to the 49ers, not just this draft, but last year's draft, a bunch of drafts, because of just like, hey, you guys need a succession plan at some point. I mean, they re-signed the right tackle. He's a nothing. Pooney's been out there. He's been fine at guard, but they need a line. Fred Warner's a year older. Fred Warner's not the biggest guy either, and he plays a very physical style. So it might be just this is what happens now. CMC is the driver of this offense. I mean, he was getting MVP talk for a minute, and just this season he was. And I finally looked it up, but just the 3 years that he's been with the 49ers. Yeah, I think it's been 3 seasons now, but I just looked up the last 3 years. His average speed has dropped off as a ball carrier. In 2023, his average speed as a ball carrier is 12.95 miles an hour. Last year is 13.05. This year is 12.6. Seems like it's splitting hairs. That's almost a half mile an hour. That's significantly slower in kind of this discussion. Carries of where you traveled 15 miles an hour or more, so like a full good run. 2 years ago, it was 22% of his runs. He hit 15 miles an hour or more. This year is 16%. So 6% drop off. I think 20% is kind of going to be one of the top guys. 16% is kind of a middle tier running back. He never touched 20 miles an hour this year. And 2 years ago, he hit it a couple times. And overall, they didn't have a lot of guys that had that speed. They had injuries. So that's why it's hard to like say that. But CMC, though, he's about to be a 30-year-old running back with a lot of touches. Usually, historically, that has shown fade. If I was just talking about fantasy terms, but just even real life terms. You brought up the Arian Foster year, who 2012, his coordinator was not Shanahan anymore because I think he was in Cleveland then. I could be wrong. No, he was in Washington then. RG3 year. So he has the 351 carries. You had over 400 touches. The next year, he only played 8 games, and he had 120 carries. And then the year after that, he kind of came back, and then he played 13 games, and then basically his career was done after that. And that was at 26-year-old. He took those touches. I don't know. It's hard. I respect Kyle Shanahan as much as anybody in football, period. And he gets the most out of whatever he's got. He has shown that time and time again. It's just they have more questions than even I assumed 2 nights ago. And even just maybe I think some other people are assuming that they'll get right back. They'll be competitive. They'll put together a good offense in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of their key cogs have more questions with them than you would maybe just assume at first glance.
The way I would frame it, and the way I framed it in the article that I wrote is, as long as they have Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy too. Like, I think Purdy deserves to be discussed as one of those guys. So, like, as long as they have those two, they will be a good team. They will not fall off the face of the earth. But the way I had framed it was, it is time to officially turn the page. Because I think they've slowly been turning the page from the team that was, one of the most dominant teams of this little stretch here the last 5 years. And now, though, I think with Kittle and this injury, Williams at this point in his career seems like it's time to kind of, again, those guys can be around, but it's time to start thinking about who your next era of players are. That's really the big thing here, which, by the way, we brought up the Mac Jones thing. That's why it's like, you got to trade Mac Jones. You get a 3rd round pick for him. You might need that 3rd round pick to contribute, like a cheap, talented young player in the trenches or at skill position, like a grinder running back, some depth receiver. You're going to need that guy.
Yeah, and pick wise, they have a couple 4th round comps, and they have nothing. I think, did they get something for Saleh as
no? I don't think he was there long enough. I don't think he was there. I think you have to be there a certain amount of time.
Don't get that. That was kind of one of Shanahan's money balls, I guess. But no, I do think that. It's a curious team that just has more questions, because it's just like you say, they have to turn the page a little bit. I think their hands can force that they have to turn it, because it's hard to just go, oh yeah, we're moving on from McCaffrey. It's like, are you? Is that something going to have to force you to do that? I'm not saying move on from McCaffrey, but even guys like moving on to succession plans at all these spots they need. Need D tackles, need offensive line. They need help stopping the run. They need a new D coordinator. Yeah, it's 49ers are a very, very, very curious team, and Kyle Shanahan has shown that he can get aggressive and do some things. So who knows, like, kind of what happens with this team.